Number 18, Sammy Walsh. Really easy preview to do here, Ari. Thanks for
Yeah.
joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Walshy, he's 3 seasons in. It's all flown. It seems like it's flown anyway. It's been a long 3 years for us as fans because we haven't really seen some success. But within that, there's a few individuals that have really been a shining light, and I think none of them have been more so than Sam Walsh. Coming up to his 4th season, like, do we have expectations for him? Like, where do you see Sam Walsh now?
Well, his career's kind of been in fast forward. Like he's just improving. It seems week on week. Like I think before last year, maybe the one aspect of his game where he wasn't very good at was his goal kicking and damaging the scoreboard, and he improved that tenfold. I don't know. I think he kicked 12 goals last season, which for a midfielder in a side that's struggling is pretty good. So I don't know. I think you'd hope like all Australian again. Um, Brownlow. I mean, he got close last year in a side that didn't win that many games. If we make finals, who knows? But it's just like keep on keeping on for Walshy. I don't think there's too much that we need to say.
I feel like really early on in his story, in his career, he's found this this bar, where he sits and he doesn't really veer off it too much. I mean, his good games, he's had some monster games, but even the games where they're not his best, he seems to find that minimum standard. I mean, 2021. I mean, if you're really reaching, the one game where he wasn't at his best was the GWS game, but that literally was the only game. He still found a way to have his 20 touches. And the one thing about him is he's not doing anything crazy. He's not trying to do anything too special.
Yeah.
He's always keeping it basic. And that's generally what the great ones do. They do the basic things over and over again. And then I'm looking at him as well. His body's really feeling out as we go on. He's always had this internal strength to just get out of tricky situations. He's very hard to tackle. And I guess I can imagine this season, this will be his 4th preseason. And I can imagine the body now starts to be able to do more than what it was able to do for, pre-seasons ago when it comes to strength and through his core and his hips. That's pretty exciting because I think he can play as an inside midfielder. I don't know whether we will play him as an inside midfielder because he seems to be a guy that you can really put him anywhere, generally where the ball is, and he's going to find a way to impact. But now that we've got Chera there, now that we've brought in Hewitt as well, how do you see his role in that midfield? Like, what is he? Is he the go-to? Is he the extractor?
I think what you said about him not doing too much is spot on. Because I think, like you said, that's what the great ones do. And like just to relate it to Cripps for a second, that's probably what we told. Like that's what everyone was saying that he shouldn't do, and that's what we all thought that he was doing. And that's when he started to peter off in his performance. He started to do too much. Now, Walsh isn't doing too much with not a lot of help around him. Now we've got Chara and Hewitt. Now his role is very clear, and it's all up to Voss what his role is, but his role will be clear, and I have full faith in him to execute that perfectly. What his role will be, I think he might be a case where it's adaptable game on game, because he's got the engine to play not on. He could play on the wing, but as like an outside midfielder, he's got the ball use for that as well. But he's also got that like intensity, that inside midfield grunt type thing where he can play on the inside. So yeah, it also determines who's in the midfield with him. So it's like if Cripps is there or like if Kennedy's there, then his role changes. But if it's like if Chera and Hewitt are in there with him, then determining on his midfield partners is probably where his role sits.
Yeah. I think the other part about him, which is really unique for us, and it's something that I think we should all be very grateful for, is the fact that he's been able to rise and show this leadership so early in his career. And I think what it does is it really helps the transition for the draftees coming through. I mean, you think about it, you're 18 years old, you come into the system, and then generally your best players or your better players are in that 25-ish, 26-ish bracket. And that's a bit of a gap. That's a 7-year gap between humans, and that can be
Yeah,
a bit different. That can be a bit daunting. Whereas with Walshy, he's still very, very young. It's actually crazy
yeah,
how young he is. So as an 18-year-old, you're coming in. It can be unfair at times because we've spoken about someone like a Paddy Dow, who's only 1 year removed from Sam Walsh's draft. He was drafted the year before. So there can be a bit of pressure, but at the same time, I think it also allows for that opportunity to realize that anything is possible. And it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter how many years you've had in the system. If you can play your role,
yeah,
you can crack in. But I also think it's more about that relatability between the 18-year-old and this
yeah,
21-year-old. And I think he he is the leader of the really young group. I know we
yeah.
have captains and whatnot, but how do you see his leadership developing from here?
I think you can already tell he's got a good head on his shoulders. Like he
Yeah,
speaks well in the media. He conducts himself in the right way, and he on the field that translates. Perhaps like one of the only players that gives 110% every single week, no matter how we're going, no matter if we're down by 30, up by 30, he cracks in. So his leadership will only go up from here. I don't see any major red flags early. Like he's not getting into indiscretions on or off field. He's very um, he's very trained in terms of how to conduct himself, which is good. Um, I It'd be interesting to see if he was like. There's been talk about him being the heir to Cripps's captaincy. It'll be interesting to see if that happens, and maybe if he goes into a vice captaincy role, and then his leadership does like groom and mature from there. Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see because he he came in at a time where we were rubbish in 2018, and then he's kind of had this expectation on him straight away. Or like from 2019 onwards, there was this expectation of, oh yeah, we've got to be playing finals now. And then in 2020, that was the same, and last year that was the same as well. Whereas Cripps had that like early period in his career, like 2015, 2016, when there was no real expectations. So it'll be interesting to see if that has something like if that has an effect on him if he does become a captain and we do underperform, how he handles that.
yeah. I think also now that he's made the All Australian team, I'm really interested to see what that does for him now because I feel like I feel like there probably was a target on his back. Now that he's the All Australian in the team, I think he's the best midfielder in the team right now. The tag, does it go to Cripps? Does it go to Walsh? I know that he's had it a few times, and the one thing about his game, it's not based on skill; it's based on work rate.
Yeah,
So as long as that work rate's there, I only picture him dealing with the pressure by working harder. I don't picture him trying to do anything with the ball in hand that gets himself into trouble. I'm trying to keep a lid on it, to be honest with you, but
yeah,
I'm really excited for what he can do. I mean, even if he gives us the same output as he gave us in
yeah,
2021, that's more than enough for me.
yeah,
I don't see myself wanting him to be doing more, getting more of the ball, kicking more goals. I mean, they would all be nice, but the reality is, if he literally can just be doing what he has been doing, work rate wise, leadership wise, if he gets 5% better, great. If he doesn't, he's in a very unique situation. It seems like we're not asking for him to do too much more than what he already does.
yeah. I think that's a credit to his early career. Like his
Yeah.
first 3 years have been exceptional, and like you said, it's based on work rate. Like I don't think there's not many players that run as much and as hard as Sam Walsh, which is something that which is something that when you couple with his ball skills and his football smarts, it makes for a real dangerous player. And he's in my like you said, he's got that work rate to break the tag. So and he's a different type of tag to if you were to tag Cripps or Chero, whoever, because he's very like you said, he's unique. He can run, but he's also got that skill, that like powerful burst from the pack energy. But he can run up and down all day. So I don't like you said, if he just maintains his even if he like plateaus, which for someone in their fourth year you wouldn't want them to plateau. But if he does, it's not the end of the world because he's an all Australian. Like if you maintain an All-Australian form, there's not much to complain about.
Yeah, 100%. Well, look, fingers crossed that the mates around him lift their performances, and they, he's really set the tone for work rate and performance and standards. So I think we now move into a very different era for the club with him really leading it, or one of the select few that really lead and drive the standards. So I'm excited for what's next, and we'll see how it plays out. But for you guys at home, how do you see Sam Walsh going into season 4 of his career and season 2022? Let us know in the comments below.